Mr. Trump has particular way of functioning where he says that when he talks about MAGA, make America great again, the Prime Minister has responded that we are working for MEGA, make India great again. So whenever there are negotiations, both the countries look for promoting own country's interest, but in negotiation, bargain, all the things get settled.
Welcome. You're with the Secretariat. Today I'm joined by Mr. Gopal Agarwal. He is BJP's national spokesperson on economic affairs. Thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for your time. Great having you here.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, sir. Now, let's start with the manufacturing sector issues. We have been talking about the issues which plague the manufacturing sector. Of course, Mr. Modi has been putting a lot of emphasis on Make in India for the world. But with the current issues, and last week we saw how Mr. Donald Trump actually came up and said that Apple should not focus on expanding its production base in India. What do you have to say on that?
I think the global challenges are there for the country. And when on 2nd April, Mr. Trump announced reciprocal tariffs, it created a disruption in the global scenario on trade and other issues. But then there was on 9th April, there was a gap for 90 days window was created, and India has taken that opportunity for negotiating bilateral treaty with the US also. And I'm also happy that we have completed in a record time our treaty with the United Kingdom. We are going for negotiations now for an interim trade treaty. It is said that before 9 July, we will have an interim trade treaty with US and European Union also. That bilateral trade agreement is on an advanced stage. Some of the issues crop up because at the global level, these challenges come for any country. And Apple, as you mentioned, that Mr. Trump has particular way of functioning where he says that when he talks about MAGA, make America great again, the Prime Minister has responded that we are working for MEGA, make India great again. So whenever there are negotiations, there are countries, both the countries look for their own promoting own country's interest, but in negotiation, bargain, all the things get settled. And as far as Apple is concerned, Apple has still announced that I will continue to invest into India through Foxconn and Tata and other their subsidiaries and associates and joint ventures, and still they have directly expanding their productions, and almost more than I think 6 lakh unit have been manufactured by Apple in India, and we are catering to global market through for mobile phone. Before 2014, India had only two mobile manufacturing companies, but now there are more than 200 mobile manufacturing companies. So whenever any commercial entity takes decision in a free economy, in an economy which believes in capitalism, they will watch their own interest. And if India can provide a better opportunity for their manufacturing with labor, power, land, and other facilities, which India is doing, so we will then definitely overcome all kind of challenges.
Production linked incentive scheme. It was one of the thrust areas of your government. At the same time, there have been challenges. Ease of doing business on the ground hasn't been the way perhaps you would have anticipated. What are the issues and what are you doing?
See, economy and developing domestic economy is a continuous reform process. You cannot have a stable or static policy. As the challenges arise, it is the government agility and government continuous focus on reforms that you change the scenario accordingly. Ecosystem, bring new policies, bring new support system, those industries which can provide good growth for the country, the government goes for support of those industries. So when we announced PLI after the COVID and in the Atmanirbhar package, Bharat package, that time pharmaceutical industry required a support from the government. Government gave a 90,000 crore package to the pharmaceutical and vaccine industries. Then our automobile industry is doing good, so government has given support to that industry. Defense, lot of defense industry is developing in the private sector. Government policy of getting procurement, defense requirement domestically has helped the private sector enter into defense industries. Government announced almost 14 sectors where any new investment, new manufacturing facility was to be supported by the government through financial assistance and other assistance. And government has committed 4 lakh crore of fund on this. So still there are certain issues, but our defense industry, our mobile industry, our automobile industry, our pharmaceutical industry, then space technology, we have done very good with the launch of several satellites at a low cost globally. We are doing good. Then toy industries, they have seen a remarkable progress into their manufacturing sector, and they have benefited out of PLI.
Coming to the MSME segment, this is one of the key areas. Employment generation is dependent on a lot on this sector. Now, this sector has been particularly facing a lot of challenges, including a huge liquidity crunch. Of course, your government has taken various steps. What further can we expect from your government to ensure that the MSMEs are strengthened?
MSME have particularly certain big challenges in India with regard to factors of production. One was capital was short to them. They were not finding enough working capital requirement. Even banks were reluctant to finance them without collateral. They needed, MSME needed collateral free support from the banks. So government announced in this budget and last year budget also credit guarantee, collateral free credit guarantee, where uh, uh, banks were finding that if they don't want to take risk on debt, the government is giving guarantee of repayment. So credit guarantee is one area through which government tries to put benefit, give debt benefit to the MSME sector. Another thing was on the working capital side. There lot of money was getting blocked into their when they supply to large, even government departments and the large corporates, the repayment for their services or their product, the time limit is 90 days. So the government has reduced it to 45 days so that working capital requirement of MSME is not hampered. The third important thing that we are doing at the government level is this data which is being generated through GST and tax on virtual tax assessment. The government is asking banks and financial institutions to collate this data and sharing this data with those institutions. And this data, that their turnover, their transaction, their profitability, all this gives a added confidence to the banks to finance good this MSME sector. So this is data sharing, use of the data to for credit evaluation, requirement on the working capital so that they are not bogged down by 90 days limit of repayment, then credit guarantee. And in addition to that, the government has also given certain schemes through Mudra loan, Stand Up India, startup ecosystems. In even taxation, corporate tax has been reduced. And then in startup, only 15% tax is being taken. So government is focusing on creating credit availability to the MSME. At the same time, the government is also asking the state because ultimately land, power, water,
Right.
environment, clearance, etc., permissions, etc., have to be given by the state level. The central government is pushing state government through competitive federalism, that those states who give attractive bring attractive policies and support to the manufacturing, they will progress. The center is focusing and pushing the states to give better facility to the MSME
Now,
sector.
with the current scenario, with geopolitical, geoeconomic risks, the tariff war, with exports, the export sector looking extremely uncertain and wary of the situation, MSMEs will be further impacted. What kind of hand holding are you looking at to ensure that these little units do not face any survival threat?
One thing is that cost of land is an important factor for MSME. If you if our MSME and manufacturing sector has to compete at the global level, for that they have to look into their cost. If they have competitive costing mechanism, then only they can compete globally. And when the if we open our through lower tariffs, if we open our imports, etc., then they will face competitive at the global level. So they have to look more at their costing. So government is looking into that matter, and at the same time, government is also understanding that they, our manufacturing sector will progress and will be benefited when they link their into the global supply chain and regional supply chain. So we have to link our manufacturing sector with global supply chain and regional supply chain.
You spoke of supply chains. Now, supply of raw materials is also an issue. There are issues relating to the taxation bit, inverted tax structure. Of course, a lot has been done, but going ahead, what are your plans?
On the inverted duty structure, or opening up with the at the international forums about by a trade lower tariff, etc. So government in GST, there were so many issues about inverted duty structure or custom duty being higher, or when the cost of raw material was getting, the MSME sector or manufacturing sector was getting raw material like cement, steel, and other base metal, etc., at the higher cost. When government levies anti-dumping duty on these raw materials, etc., they get at a higher price, so their cost of manufacturing gets
Pushed up.
increased. So the government has been adjusting these things whenever there is a large anti-dumping duty on any metal, and there is a requirement by the small and medium manufacturers. The government adjusted that. Government also has put up quality control order also, through which their non-tariff barriers are also at times put, where there are certain issues with regard to customs and import duties. And in the GST also, the 54 amendments have taken place. Whenever any manufacturing sector or any association brings to the notice of the government about any inverted duty structure, it is getting corrected, because at sometimes the tax on the final good is lower than the tax on the imported raw material. So that anomaly is controlled by the that corrected by the government at various, whenever it is brought to our notice.
Also, India and US are in negotiations for a bilateral trade deal. Sectors like MSME, agriculture will be tough when the negotiation actually comes on these issues. How will India handle these issues?
One thing is, our policy is that protecting domestic industry and agricultural's interest. This is the basic policy which defines our tariff negotiations.
But that is also the major point of
Yeah.
a thorny point between the two
Yes,
countries.
there are issues like public procurement, which is a big challenge. The global countries global level, people want that the public procurement should be open for the foreign companies. Then there is the issue of IPR. Then there is the issue where agriculture sector is, they want an agriculture sector to be open. So these are our negotiable points. If we, and these are you, this will definitely be used as a bargain. If we have to give some concessions on any of the issues, first thing is that it should hamper our domestic interest to the least. Second thing is, if we are giving some concessions, what we are getting in bargain. We have with UK, we have opened certain sectors. We have opened wine distilleries, etc. Even certain automobiles we have opened, but we have taken care that in response or in bargain, we get, our textile sector gets a better deal, our labor intensive industries get a better deal. So in negotiation, ultimately, if we target that our bilateral trade increases from here to a next level, that we have targeted that our bilateral trade with US, which is around $150 billion at present, it has to be increased to $500 billion in next in near future. So both will be benefited. So in negotiation, this benefit of a domestic industry, protecting our domestic industry, but it cannot be only that we protect our industry and not give anything in return, so we won't get anything. So we have to see that what we get in return. Our labor intensive industries get a better deal, our services sector get a better deal, our agriculture sector is protected to the maximum possible, and at the same time we also look into certain non-tariff barriers also. Non-tariff restrictions are also there, that as Europe, in our negotiation with European countries, they are putting carbon tax. So we have said, if you put carbon tax or restrictions on based on carbon emissions, we will also have a reciprocal tariff restriction. So these IPR, public procurement, agriculture sector, all these things, if we open up, definitely we will get a better negotiation and get a better deal for our labor intensive industries.
On India and China and economic relations between the two countries, of course, there have been a lot of problems regarding Chinese imports, and the fact that they've been dumping a lot of their products. But in terms of overall economic relations, where do you think India and China are headed?
One thing, the reality at present is that China has become a global hub for manufacturing sector. It has penetrated into the global supply chain at every level in every country. It has, over the last several decades, it has strengthened its manufacturing sector. So lot of our every country's regional and global supply chain have become dependent on Chinese manufacturing sector. India has also certain sectors which are dependent on Chinese supply. So those sectors interest we are looking into. But one thing is that due to this tariff war at the global level and conflict between US and China, the world has understood, and the period during which during the corona period, the way China scuttled the supply chain created a big harm to the global trade and trade and manufacturing sector. So world has now recognized that we should go for a alternative manufacturing hub also. That is, they call China plus one. So that is giving us an opportunity. And if the negotiation between China and US is not fully successful, at present, if you find that we are getting benefited, a lot of inquiries is coming, many companies are, global manufacturing companies are coming and inquiring to set up their manufacturing into India. So the China plus one is a better opportunity for us in this tariff war. We are trying to look into various other supply chain so that we are a global and regional supply chain are not that much dependent only on China. We are also looking for alternative supply chain suppliers also. But if you see today also Moody report has come and RBI has also come out with a report, and they have clearly said that India's manufacturing and India's economy is not that much only dependent upon exports. We have a good domestic market for our manufacturing sector. Large domestic market is there, and we have good, and our lot of economy is also getting benefited out of our strong services sector. So our dependence at global export market is low in comparison to many of the countries. So this global tariff war will not impact India's economy as much as it may impact some of our competitors like Bangladesh or other countries which have been put under high tariff. China, Bangladesh, Indonesia, other countries where they have in comparison to that, those countries, our economy will be less impacted by the global tariff war.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Agarwal. Thank you for your time. Thank you. See you soon.